Hey, it's Melanie. I just wanted to jump on and say thank you so much for listening to the Eat Away Kidney Stones podcast. I've been truly blown away by all the kind and wonderful comments people have been leaving for me about the podcast. If you are enjoying the podcast, please consider leaving a review on whatever platform you listen to your podcast on. This really helps me help more people prevent kidney stones. I hope you enjoy today's episode. Welcome to the Eat Away Kidney Stones podcast. I'm your host, registered dietitian and kidney stone expert, Melanie Betts. After learning a ton about kidney stones and helping people prevent stones at the University of Chicago, I was fed up with all the terrible advice people were finding online. So I decided to do something about it. The Kidney Dietitian was born. This podcast is for people who want to learn what actually works to prevent kidney stones and still enjoy life, eating, and their favorite foods. Let's dive in. Hello and welcome to this episode of the Eat Away Kidney Stones podcast. I'm your host and registered dietitian and kidney stone expert, Melanie Betts. And today I am so excited to invite two guests to the podcast. This is only the second time that I've had a podcast with two guests at the same time. So this is very exciting. I have actually two other dietitians, two other Michelles who will introduce themselves in just a second, who are just as passionate about me as kidney nutrition and kidney health. They specialize in chronic kidney disease, and I know there is a lot of overlap. A lot of listeners have both kidney stones and kidney disease. So I think that our conversation will be really interesting to all of you out there. So with that, I will let Michelle Zachry introduce herself.
Hi, everyone. I'm Michelle Zachry. I'm a registered dietitian. I've been a registered dietitian for 20 years or more, and in all capacities. But I think that chronic kidney disease is something that I really, truly fell in love with once I started working in the dialysis spectrum of it and fell in love with all of my patients, all of my clients, and just really was passionate about on the other side, the prevention side of it, and what my clients would tell me they wish they would have known before and earlier. So I think that's what has driven me to this point in my career.
Yeah, amazing. I feel like I can name probably 15 dietitians off the top of my head that have a similar trajectory that have started a private practice in CKD the last, say, 2 years or so, which is so exciting. It's
That is exciting.
such an awesome time in CKD. I'm maybe a little bit on a renal nutrition high right now. I just came back from the NKF meeting in Long
Wonderful.
Beach just this past weekend, but it's so exciting to see such a movement, certainly in the renal nutrition world, but even in the nephrology community as a whole, slowly but surely on for the doctor side, but moving into more of this prevention space and getting patients to see dietitians earlier in the CKD process, because it is imperative. But unfortunately, most people don't. So anyway, yes, thank you so much for that introduction.
You're welcome.
And I'm Michelle McMurtery, and I am a renal dietitian. I've been a registered dietitian for probably like in the 20 years, 25 years, and really in a lot of different aspects and pediatrics and in long-term care, geriatric. And then recently was in a dialysis facility. And like Michelle had said, I just loved it. I just love that nutrition is so important in that, what everyone eats, it does matter. It makes an impact and you can really help people. And I really love the building connections with people too. Like that's a real big piece of why I stayed with dialysis so long. It just was, I do really love to just talk to people, help them talk about food and, and so since then, where Michelle and I, that's where we met. We're both in Central Florida and we did, make a connection and we have the same kind of nutrition philosophy as well. And I don't know, Melanie might understand that. And maybe as people kind of see and look and search for, what is the right nutrition? What is what someone give me the right answer, the one answer. Well, we all know there's really not one answer to a lot of questions. You can get an influencer's answer, you can get someone's personal experience. And Michelle and Melanie, that's why I loved your website, is really science-based and it's really, the truth, the like what is the scientific background and research really shows about what we're promoting. And that's kind of how Michelle and I think that's where we stand and where we're consistent and where we kind of bounce off each other is really like, okay, well, how are we going to help people and what are we going to give them that's going to make a difference and not going to be going to help them for the next, 6 months or give them false hopes or give them, I don't know. So that's what kind of gets me, I like that, I like that part of what we're trying to do. And we've moved into that private practice field of it and just trying to nutrition education and CKD. And the more you're out there, the more you realize is people just looking for that answer, looking for some help.
Yeah, actual help that's specific to them.
Yes, that's specific to them. And that could be different from the, same person with the same diagnosis, another person, same diagnosis. It could be a total different answer that we're going to give them and help. So it is, you get that person calling saying, well, I've just researched, and I go, uh-oh.
Which is great. We don't want to discourage, getting a second opinion or doing your own research.
Definitely.
But
definitely research.
I think you have to be very, very, very careful about where you're doing your research and who is putting that information out there.
Yes.
Because there's a lot of bad stuff. And I think people don't really realize, I feel like food is seen as, I don't know, maybe because it's natural, quote, whatever that means. So people don't think that there can be harm in bad advice, right? You think, oh, like I'm going to eat maybe the wrong things, but no, especially for kidneys and probably I'm biased, but I think for probably every health condition, there is a lot of harm in following poor advice, even if it's nothing other than, and not to diminish this because this is a really big deal, but following a diet that's too restrictive, that can put you at risk for not eating enough. That can put you at risk of being honestly depressed and unhappy. And like, if, what's the point of following any diet if it's so restrictive that you can't live your life? Like the point of all of this is to live a good life, right? So it's just so important to be very, very cautious with where you do your research.
Right.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So go back and tell me. So the two of you have a private practice in CKD. So tell us a little bit more about that before we dive into everything else.
Okay, I can go, Michelle.
Sure. I'll jump in whenever you need me to.
So yeah, we're in Central Florida. We're a virtual practice, meaning we do a lot of things on telehealth video. And like it's just like this, just like Zoom. And I say if you can order, on Amazon, you can do Zoom calls. So it's really like it's not as overwhelming because a lot of our clients are in an older generation and technology is still challenging for me. So, but we are in Central Florida. We have, we're credentialed with Medicare. So we do take Medicare insurance. It's a traditional plan only. We're out of network with other plans, and we can talk a minute. Don't remind me because I want to talk about that Medicare and what's covered. But, and so we basically, if you have chronic kidney disease, that's whether it be stage 2, stage 3, stage 4, we will see you and help guide you through it and to look at your labs. I think the biggest thing is, well, we need your labs and get into that. But we basically, we can take referrals, we can take people up, that give us a call. And so that's our bulk of really, we see clients one-on-one. But what we're really getting into too more is just more education-free things, like we have a Facebook group called Kidney Nutrition Made Simple. And I've always kind of fell in love with that it's us, it's Michelle and I, right? Kidney nutrition made simple. Let's please not over complicate it. There's so much in life that's complicated and so much too with CKD. CKD is just like, so we really try to bring it down. But yeah, look for us on Kidney Nutrition Made Simple. And we are nutrition specialist group. That is our full legal name. So our website is mynsgroup.com, like My Nutrition Specialist Group. So mynsgroup.com. And you can reach out with us that way. We have a couple of resources on that, free resources on that website as well. But yeah, that's who we are.
I will link to the Facebook group and your website in the show notes so people can easily access. access it. Yeah. So
Right.
you do a virtual practice, and like so many dietitians are passionate about working with people with CKD early in the process, right? Like honestly,
Yes.
the earlier the better. There's data that
Yeah.
shows that the earlier someone works with a dietitian in the CKD process, the more impact we can have. And so no more of this, oh, you're not going to see a dietitian until your GFR is less than 15. Like that is nuts.
Oh my God.
That
Yeah.
is not okay. Not the way that it should be. No
Right.
matter who you are with chronic kidney disease, you could benefit from seeing a dietitian.
Definitely. And like you say, the earlier, and I have so many people that they have to ask the doctor, hey, can I have a referral? And they're like, well, the doctor looks at the labs and they're like,
It's fun.
they're just so contradictory. They look at the labs and say, oh, it's okay. Well,
Let's keep it that way.
but let's keep it that way. Exactly. Let's keep
Hmm.
it that way. They're okay, meaning, yeah, there's not much happening. It's a lot of monitoring. And so I think sometimes, it's not as urgency, but yeah, being the person in the other seat, being the one with the labs, being that person, it is urgent. It
Hmm.
is they need to, people need to be heard and they need to be, um, you know, explained a lot of it, like in the early stages, so that what's happening, and
Yeah.
that's what I think too. This chronic condition is should be it's chronic, so you do need to know a lot of it. And as I know a lot about it, and keep teaching yourself and understanding what's happening, because it could be, you could be living with it for years and years.
Yeah.
And so I just think monitoring it every 6 months and talking to the doctor about it is just spot checking, but really it's something that should really understand it,
Mhm.
and have it as, understand what's happening daily,
Yeah.
like, and kind of live a lifestyle, if I can kind
Yeah.
of
I've
get
heard
into.
that from a lot of people that a dietitian is obviously wonderful to help you figure out what to eat for your health. But I think another big benefit of working with a dietitian is really we have the time to sit down with you to help you to understand what's going on in those labs. I think doctors are very busy. Like a lot of times they have to
Yes.
get you in and out in 20 minutes. Like that's not their fault. It's just the way the medical system is set up.
Yeah.
And so dietitians really we're educators, right, about food and also and nutrition and also your medical condition and your labs and even some of your medications we can answer questions about.
Right.
So yeah, I love that approach. And just knowing that there are things you can do to slow the progression of kidney disease, and nutrition is a huge part of that. So why
Yes.
wouldn't you want to work with a dietitian early on when you have a lot of room and a lot of time to slow that disease down?
Right. Exactly.
And I think that's a big part of it is that so I know myself because for both Michelle and I, like education is truly our passion in the field of dietetics and nutrition. So we definitely take the time. We never, ever, ever want people working with us to feel like we're on a time clock. So we will go over, like, that's not the issue. And I always tell people that up front, like, we're here for you, we're your resource. You have us forever now. But the bottom line, I think the benefit of working with us is that especially both of us have such a wide background that we have the capacity to sit down with you and not only talk about chronic kidney disease and all that entails with nutrition management, but also we will pull in everything. We make sure that people understand, look, this is a chronic condition. Obviously, we have multiple comorbidities oftentimes. So, we're good about definitely taking the time and doing a full comprehensive nutritional assessment. Like, we want to know their complete background. We want to know their complete medical history, their blood work, like Michelle was saying, their medications. So, we do a full nutrition assessment, especially when we see people one on one, when we do that particular avenue. So, that's what I feel like the benefit of seeing us is that we are going to make sure that it's not just one thing and out the door. We're going to do a full assessment, bring in all of the comorbidities, talk about the management. Okay, well, here we are with the CKD. How does that relate back to diabetes? How does that relate back to weight management? So I think it's kind of fully comprehensive. And then if we do, we see people one on one, but then we also have group opportunities and programs along that nature. But again, we may do something in the group capacity, but then we also may have on the side do a full assessment first, as well as the full the group. So I think that's the thing, is like with us, we just want to make sure people understand that it is all inclusive. It's not just one thing that we're going to possibly be discussing that is what is driving us. But because, as you know, there's so many other complications, or there's so many other comorbidities that are linked back to CKD. So I think it's important to educate on all of it. And it's like I always tell people, you're going to your doc, the important things of what are the secrets to managing CKD. Obviously going to your doctor, taking your medications, being accountable. But I think that nutrition, I always emphasize, this is that last piece of the puzzle, or that's that piece of the puzzle that we bring in that really completes your healthcare management of the diagnosis, and being able to live not just live, but live a quality life, because you have all of these pieces now to help you along the way.
Yeah, I think that really kind of highlights, those comments really highlight quite well kind of what Michelle M was saying earlier, about how nutrition is different for everyone. And this is true for kidney disease and kidney stones. Just because you have, like, everyone with CKD stage 3 is not the same. Everyone with calcium oxalate stones is not the same. And it is crucial to get answers from a dietitian, ideally, who knows your whole medical history, what you're eating, your other medications, other health conditions that you might have. Because, I get questions like hundreds daily, literally, from people, can I eat popcorn? Sure, you can eat anything, right? You like, or whatever, right? Can I eat this supplement? Can I, whatever? Like, and my answer is I can't ethically or legally tell you what to eat, because I don't know you. I don't know your medical history. I don't know your labs. I don't know your food preferences and cultural preferences. And like, I don't know until I work with you. And that's why it's so important to work with a dietitian, no matter who you are. If you have CKD or kidney stones, it's crucial that you find a dietitian somewhere. So you're located in Florida, but do you work with just people in Florida?
So I think it's kind of probably along the lines of similar. So if we're doing through insurance with Medicare, doctor's referrals, obviously those patients, if we're seeing them as licensed dietitians, then we are licensed in the state of Florida. Obviously there are certain states that, there's reciprocity, or there's not that licensure law. So we're able to see if someone theoretically, I think California is an example of one of those states. In theory, if someone called us from California now, to be, so it's kind of along the same lines. We can give general basic information to anyone that reaches out to us and contacts us. But again, just like you're saying, we can't legally give nutrition advice unless it's someone that is either, in the state of Florida, or we have gotten a true doctor's referral from, we have their medical history, we have the complete, all of the information. But in theory, anyone can reach out to us.
Yeah. So,
you have resources for everyone.
Pretty much. Yeah. And with Medicare, I think that people don't understand, or the ones that have Medicare, that it is covered 3 hours a year, which doesn't sound like a lot, but it is covered, for CKD, no matter what
you
stage.
You can get more
stage 1 through.
if you really want to.
Yeah, you can get more, but it's definitely a great place to start, in addition, to kind of adding our program with it. We have another program that we've offered one-on-one. And so we've kind of combined that with some of the insurance. And so there's definitely, it's a benefit that I don't think that is, that people know about. That's all. I think that they were like, when they hear, I'm like, oh yeah, it's covered. And they're like, oh my God. So yeah, 2 diagnoses that Medicare does cover: chronic kidney disease and diabetes. And so we will use that. But
typically we'll meet with someone about an hour and a half on average for that first full assessment, especially with Medicare patients, if we're seeing you one-on-one via Zoom. I would say on average it's a good 90 minutes, and then that still frees up another hour and a half, however, and then we kind of leave it up to the client as to how comfortable they feel, if they want to proceed in additional counseling, how often. And then we have clients even that may want to go beyond their Medicare benefits and just pay their, because they feel that the information is valuable, so they may pay out of pocket even beyond just for a follow-up, or they may transition to more of the group setting. Like we have had clients that have seen us one-on-one, and then they kind of want to continue on for the accountability, and they may see us more in that group setting. So so lots of different options. It's just we are willing to work with you, whatever. Like we've said, it's there's not one fit for everybody, so everybody approaches the counseling side of it differently in terms of what they need and how often that they feel that they would like to see us.
Yeah. Awesome. And I have a list, if because I know I have listeners from all over the world, really, from the podcast. So I have a list of kidney dietitians on my website. If you want to check it out, it's under my kidney disease resources section. And you can, if you are looking for that one-to-one help, you can likely find someone there who will be a good fit. And the National Kidney Foundation also has a good resource as well. So I wanted also, I'll give a shout out to a organization called Cukebook, CUKE and this is actually my good friend, Lauren Levy's organization. It's a nonprofit, and she has a ton of really great plant-based recipes and other kidney nutrition information on there. But her recent project is create a really comprehensive, useful, easily searchable, with all the information you need, dietitian hub resource. So definitely check that. You guys should put yourselves on there too.
Yeah.
I was going to mention that when we were getting ready, because it really is a great, it's a great website, and she's put a lot of work into it. So check out cukebook.org for the recipes, if nothing else.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah. All right. So, moving into what we're here to talk about today, is the sort of that nutrition philosophy. You mentioned that you both connected because you had a similar nutrition philosophy, you called it. So, do you want to maybe talk a little bit more about what that is?
I think that the nutrition philosophy is everything fits, right? I mean, I really feel like we're more of the, when people are fearful of seeing the dietitian, I can't tell you how many people call and say, "Oh, I'm here to make an appointment and I just ate my last meal because I'm going to be meeting with you."
I know, that's heartbreaking. Oh, no. It makes me feel so icky.
I know, I'm like, I'm not the police, the food police.
Right. Also, do you think I don't eat pizza? Like, what?
I want to tell you what, but I think the impression is we're going to give them a diet because everything has been like, we all, I don't know if it's society or just, the diet and where I think the perception is if this is a bad, such a hard disease or it's so complicated when I look up stuff online, well, then it must be in theory and in practice complicated. When actually it's the opposite. So actually we try to make it way more simple and way more inclusive of what you can eat. So when we, first talk with people, they really have that anxiety of, well, what else are you going to tell me I can't eat? And what other list? And I almost want to say our new catchphrase should be, Michelle, but it's not another list. We're not giving you another list.
I actually
we don't
hate
give
food
out
lists a lot.
I am like, there is no list. There's no yes list. Let's talk. Let's talk about what you want to eat. Let's talk about what your typical lifestyle eating is. Everyone is so different with what they eat. Like you say, whether it's cultural, whether it's their, just their food taste, with their work schedule, everything
their
is
access,
so
their
individual.
ability to purchase and get.
So we really just it's like that, when Michelle mentioned comprehensive assessment, it's like an assessment of their diet, assessment of really what are you eating and what do we need to worry about and what don't we need to worry about. And I think that the other philosophy is like, well, I know for me too, as just food's very important. Food is very much, I couldn't imagine like not thinking about, eating something ever again or, because, and that it breaks my heart. So it's like, I'm very much like, okay, how can we fit this in? So you will find us kind of, Michelle, you can talk more. You can find us educating a little bit more on like how to have a lifestyle or how to have a eating pattern.
Right. And I think that's the main thing is it's not just we focus on not just okay what you can't have, but we talk I feel like even sometimes more about what you can have. Don't focus
More
on just what you
important.
can't have.
Yeah.
Exactly, exactly. Because that's what they want to know. Okay, but what don't if you're going to take away all this stuff, what can I have? But we don't approach it like that. We just focus on, like Michelle said, we definitely look at their diet. That's the first thing, because how can I talk to somebody about what to include, what to limit, if I have no clue
What they
what they're
eat.
eating
What
and
they're
what their
doing.
diet's like? That wouldn't be, that would be terrible as a dietitian to just make assumptions and just say, here's what you can have, and give an additional list, the to-do list and the not to-do list. But that's only a small piece of it. So I feel like that's part of the building relationship with a client and getting them to feel like they can trust you, by taking the time to even know them. And because like we're saying, what you eat is such a big part of your life, because it's such a big part of that quality of life. And so you kind of, and everybody's coming at it different, from different angles. For some people it's their lifestyle, why they eat the way they do. For some people it's their finances. For some people it's just their work schedule. For some people it's the craziness of always being on the go. You just don't know. So I think really taking the time first to do a full assessment of their diet, looking at their typical eating patterns, their eating behaviors, what they're eating. So I think you can't really do anything counseling wise until you establish that first, and find that even they have to trust you first so that they will be open and humble themselves to really being able to fully tell you what they're truly doing, because otherwise how can we really help them, right? So
Yeah.
I think getting that diet history and doing that kind of that analysis first and foremost is important before we even start the counseling part of
Yeah.
it. So I think once we have that, then we can focus more on, okay, well, here's here are their typical behaviors. Here what's, we're constantly thinking, okay, so this would probably, what's going to work for them versus what's not going to work for them. And so I think just getting to know the client first and foremost is so important, which is why we circle back to taking the time with them. That should be the benefit of seeing a dietitian versus just seeing your healthcare provider. Not to, healthcare providers are so important, but again, it's not their fault. They just don't have the time to sit down and hold people's hands like we have the capability of doing. So that's an advantage. That's why we're in this field. We're people.
Mhm.
Like, we love people. We love counseling. We love education. We want to help
Yeah.
people.
And food usually.
So I think that's a big part of it. It's a
Dietitians
big
love
part.
food. I feel like when I am hanging out with dietitians, I probably like eat more and better than like anyone, better meaning like really delicious, like
Yeah,
enjoyable
yeah,
foods,
Right.
than with anyone else, because
Right.
yeah,
dietitians just love to eat.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah. And I
yeah.
think 95% of dietitians, I'm making up that number, of course, but like have a similar philosophy to what we're talking about, right? Like, we're
Right.
not here to put you on a diet. I think most of us actually really hate that word. It's unfortunate that it's part of our title. But like it's more about learning how to modify what you're currently eating to
Mhm.
help protect your kidneys, or
Right.
control your blood sugars, or heart, or whatever it might be, prevent kidney stones, um, whatever it might be, because just giving someone a diet is useless. Like, sure, you might be able to do it for a week or two, but like, we're
Right.
talking about, for all of these conditions, something that you're gonna have to do for the rest of your life. And so if it's something that's so restrictive that you're only gonna do for even a year, say, it's really
Mhm.
not gonna help you in the long run,
No.
right?
Exactly.
And so that's why it's so important to work with the dietitian, ideally, and modify what you're doing. Again, I like that word, like like just make tweaks to what you're doing,
Yeah,
to maybe
yeah, it
reduce
is.
the sodium, or maybe reduce the protein, or
Right.
maybe make sure that you're getting more fruits and vegetables, or whatever makes sense for you. Um, and it's really going to be a much more enjoyable, approachable experience for you than trying to figure out all this out on yourself, by yourself, or following some sort of diet that you might find online. For sure.
Exactly. Exactly.
Exactly.
Yeah, the meal plan, I mean, there was, and I think people want that structure, like they call saying, oh, they want a meal plan. Sometimes it like works. It's a good place to kind of see,
Mhm.
okay, like you said, you can kind of do it for a while. You might give you some ideas, but about 3 days into a, structured meal plan, it
That's not how life works.
that doesn't
No,
work.
no.
By
As much
day
as we
4,
want it
you run
to.
out of whatever the first, it's
Yeah.
not that easy. And I'm like, well, we're going to do better, right? We're not going to just give you a meal plan. I know that's what, as a client, or that's what, when someone's searching, they're like, just tell me what to eat, right? How many times have we heard
Mhm.
that? Just tell me what to eat. It's like, I will, kind of in a different way. We're going
Right.
to tell
Right.
you what to eat, but we're going to do it and I'm not just going to list foods. I'm going to teach you how to eat,
How to build a
you know,
healthy meal with foods that you
right.
like.
Out of, yes. Yeah. And
Yeah.
that's really what we do, and I don't know, Michelle, you could add on to that.
Well, I think what's interesting about it, because in my background, I have done a lot of weight management as well. I did that for many years as well, in a structured program. And just, I think different elements that you take from different genres of clients that you work with. But I know for me, I even bring the concept of, mindful eating
Mhm.
a lot
Yeah.
oftentimes with this with CKD counseling, because it's so true. And that's what, again, the comprehensive side of it is that, whether it's eating for diabetes or eating for weight management, just healthy eating, CKD, whatever it may be, I think mindfulness and accountability is just such a big part of it. And I think it's good to have structure, counseling, education, a guidance. But I think what people do with that is all individual, like how they comprehend it, how they approach it, how they execute it, right? Like we can give you a game plan, so to speak, but the execution is more on them. So it's whatever registers with them. And so I think bringing in different concepts as a tool to help them get it, like to
Mhm.
help them cross that bridge of, okay, here's the information, whatever makes it click and connect with them. I think that's the benefit of like having things like mindful eating, different ways to approach it for the
Yeah.
execution side of it, if
Yeah.
that makes sense.
Can you give us a definition of what you mean by mindful eating? I bet you'd probably get a different definition no matter like each dietitian
Right.
you
So it's
ask,
kind of,
but
yes, it's kind of a general
yeah.
term, but mindful eating just is just self-awareness, being aware of everything basically that you are putting into your body, and
Mhm.
all these little tricks, little things that you can do to become more mindful of what you're doing. So like mindful eating is just like paying attention to what you're doing and how you're eating. So it's the behaviors of what you're doing and connection. So it's like, okay, basically stopping and making yourself think, okay, here I am eating this. What point A, point B? What's making me grab for this? First, what am I doing? What is going on around me that's influencing what I'm eating and how I'm eating and how much I'm eating? So if it's something as simple as, I am eating in front of the TV, therefore I'm distracted. Therefore, I'm
Mhm.
not paying attention to how many,
You're not
you
really
know,
enjoying your food.
yeah,
Mm,
Mhm.
exactly. It's like kind of getting back to that basic element of what food is truly meant to be and the appreciation of it. So it's becoming more accountable and aware of everything that you're putting in your body and how, what, when, like everything that influences that
Yeah.
along with it. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, so we definitely talk about different elements of that with it.
Yeah, I
So,
love that. I did. If you're at all interested in learning more about this, I did a wonderful episode with an intuitive eating dietitian who also
um,
specializes in kidney
yeah.
disease, named Amanda Hayes, and that is episode 23. If you're interested in listening or re-listening to that episode, it's a really good one. So definitely check that out because I totally align with that philosophy of food. Food should be enjoyable. It's why it's there. It's of course like to fuel our bodies and blah blah blah,
Yeah.
but also like enjoying food and even emotional eating is not necessarily a bad thing. Like it's okay. It's totally okay to enjoy your food. You should be. So,
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, where Michelle has just mentioned like that what she brings to to her the practice, or what she
mhm.
brings is, what her strong points are, counseling. I think, we're maybe where mine in my where I lie in part of that mindful eating and intuitive is like what you say, Melanie. It's all about food. It's you've got to enjoy, and I think that I enjoy kind of like, I've always had my dream of like having, a cooking show or having something like that, right? I mean, that's what
Yeah.
I will be cooking dinner. Michelle laughs and shakes her head, goes, I don't have time to cook. I will be cooking dinner. And what did I make the other day? I think I made some I made some homemade pudding for my daughter wanted chocolate cream pie, right?
Oh,
I
yeah.
bought a pie crust. I said, well, let me put something in this graham cracker crust, right? We're going to put it in. Someone said chocolate cream pie. And then I found my recipe. I, of course, text my mother because she's a big cook in our family. So I said, oh, well, how am I going to make this? And literally just over a text, I make this coke with coconut milk,
Mm-hmm.
chocolate cream pie. Totally, yes, it's chocolate, and we got to be a little careful with potassium with the CKD. But it was like I looked at it and I mixed it, and I'm making it with this dairy-free product, and I'm like, okay, this could be something that people would enjoy. And
Mm-hmm.
as I'm cooking it, I'm just like, and it's just I enjoy cooking food, and I enjoy finding like other ways to make the recipe, or could I make this lower in protein for the CKD population?
Mm-hmm.
How much protein is really in this? That's kind of where my mind is almost when I make my meals on, many times during the week as I'm making meals for my family. I'm going, how could I make this kidney friendly? Oh,
Yeah.
this is totally normal and it's low potassium or low sodium. And I could, that is me. Like that is kind of how I get, I enjoy that. That's my
Yeah.
joy of being able to
Yeah.
share something with the with people that are looking. I mean, I think a lot of our clientele are in a generation of that are older, right? Medicare, so they're in an older generation and they're maybe brought up with meat and potatoes. Like they'll say, oh, they're from, I'm in Central Florida, so we do have a lot of retirees, and like, oh, I'm from the Midwest and from steak, potatoes, all that. It's like, yes, you can still enjoy that, but let's introduce something else. Let's see if you can
Mix it up.
try to mix it up. What,
Mm-hmm.
how about some chickpeas? How about
Yeah.
something else that's plant-based that is not focused around just the protein of the meal? Maybe we can, you have to kind of rethink how you prepare your meals.
Mm-hmm.
Not every meal, but like a few during the week. Maybe think of it more on, that's less protein and a little bit more of that, like a whole grain carb,
Mm-hmm.
like some kind of casserole, think of casserole. So it's
Yeah.
really just kind of thinking a little bit like that. And I do like to kind of brainstorm with them going, okay, you like this, how can we swap it out and make it a little bit less protein and more kidney friendly, right?
Mm-hmm.
And kidney friendly is
Yeah.
not just a food list.
Yeah, I love that. One of the lessons in my kidney stone nutrition school course for people with kidney stones, I call it like kidney stone cooking class or something like that. I
Yeah,
can't
yeah,
remember.
yeah.
And I like take a couple recipes, like class. I think one is like a beef noodle casserole, and like kind of walk through it with as an example of how you might be able to make this recipe that maybe you grew up with and still make it, but keep it lower sodium, maybe reduce the protein, maybe add some more
Right,
vegetables or whatever it is. And that's just like a really fun concept, I think, and kind of really exemplifies what we're talking about is you can still have that beef noodle casserole. You can even have it in the traditional way that you made it as well. But if you want to incorporate it more regularly, there's totally ways to make any
right,
recipe more kidney
right.
friendly. Hmm.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's not all or that's the thing that I think is interesting. Like it's not all or nothing. There's no like, okay, you open, okay, now I have to follow this CKD diet. Therefore, everything else I've learned in my life and everything else I've enjoyed in my life is no longer on the table. It must be something different.
Hmm.
Not really
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
that hard.
And I think even more in light of the updated 2020 KDOKI guidelines and the KDIGO guidelines that just came out last month or 2 months ago, it's really moving away from this traditional low sodium, low potassium, low phosphorus diet, and really looking at a lot more eating patterns and eating a lot more plant forward meals and those types of
Yes,
things. So I think the guidelines in their own way in guideliney language is kind of supporting a lot of what we're saying today.
exactly.
Exactly. That's a good point. That's a really good point.
Hmm.
Yeah, yeah. And yeah, so that's kind of how we, what we, like like you said, our philosophy is very much um, how are we gonna have you still enjoy your foods, change it so that it's kidney friendly, changing it so that, what is the big change? It's going to be whatever is going to be more protective for your kidneys and try to limit the things that are most harmful are the ones that are
Hmm.
going to be, you know, um, that are causing more damage than we want, right?
Yeah.
That are more hurt for your
Yeah.
kidneys. So yeah, I mean, that's really where we just kind of simplify it that way. We
Yeah.
just try to really
And our
keep it simple.
tagline is we're real nutrition, real people. So, you can't get more simple, more basic than
I like that.
that.
Yeah.
That's our
Yeah.
philosophy right there.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I feel like, again, this approach is what 95% of dietitians take. If you work with a dietitian and you're not getting these vibes and you're feeling
Right.
uncomfortable, maybe try to find someone else, because this really is how dietitians think about food. It's not a list, it's not a diet. It's about educating people about what foods are going to be best for them so you can make food choices. You are the manager of your body and your life and your meals. Like you
Right,
have to be
right,
able to make these choices.
right.
And I just think this is such a stark difference from what, unfortunately, we'll say diet culture, Instagram and Facebook and so many different avenues, like has taught us what healthy eating is, so maybe Michelle, not to put you on the spot, Michelle Zachary, like kind of talk a little bit about how this is different than what people might think about in terms of like healthy eating and diets.
So I think the challenge is just changing the narrative on how people think and approach food, and understanding that there's a lot of gray. It's not just white and black. Like there is a lot of different shades of color when it comes to healthy eating. And again, what's going to fit your needs and your body type and your functionality the best, what is
Hmm.
best for you. So I think in terms of even something like the balance plate, right? Like that, I use it all the time, right?
Too.
I do use it all the time for helping people to understand proportionality, like how much should be this, how much should be ideally, right? But it's not a perfect world, because even then, but I'll say in the next breath, but not everybody eats like that, right? Like we're not always going to sit down to a plate that's going to look like that. It's going to be different.
Yeah, but it's
So,
yeah.
so I take concepts of that, but I change it up to fit their narrative, right? So I think that's the challenge, is getting people to understand what fits for this person, or what, I don't want to say society, but what the image is portraying that this is how you should be doing.
Hmm.
No, because no two people are alike. No two people are in the same situation. So it's also individualized, which again comes back to the importance of really seeking out a dietitian that embraces all of that and embraces all of this change and this modern way of thinking about food, and really using them as a resource to help each and every person understand where they're at, and changing their narrative and their thinking of how they should be eating and how it's best for them
Hmm.
and what's going to
Yeah,
meet their needs best.
absolutely. Absolutely.
Michelle, you
Well,
can expand upon that.
No, no, it is. It's like, I mean, we could go on and on. Like once you open a door about what I see on social media too. And yeah, I don't want to, it's just sometimes I'm like, okay, try to look up stuff of, if I were someone looking for CKD education, what would I be looking at? What would do I do my, the people that I serve, what are they seeing? And sometimes I'm just like, uh, shocked at some of the things that I see that are flat out not true. I mean, Melanie, that is flat out not true. And again,
and
it
harmful.
always
And harmful. That's
huh?
the thing. And harmful
And
potentially.
harmful,
Yeah.
exactly. That not true, harmful. And I think, yeah, yeah. So you just kind of have to, yeah, you just kind of have to figure all of that out, find your good resources, and just be careful. And if it sounds too good to be true, it usually is.
Yep.
And
Something says it's
there,
going to cure your kidney disease or dissolve your kidney stones. No,
oh
run,
yeah,
run.
no, no, it's just, it's not, yeah. Yeah, you just have to be very careful. And so, that's
Well,
really it.
I think in general, like how people are, just because this is how we all are, right, by nature. And again, fighting that narrative of we're extreme. Like
Hmm.
there's no in the middle. Like we're over here or we're over here. So if you get some information, and if unfortunately it's not always the best information, and then you go with it, it's just, it seems like Americans are just so extreme. So it's like we just go after something that is like a promise or a guarantee, when
Yeah.
there are no
Mhm.
guarantees.
Well, it's
There are
exciting,
no
right?
guarantees.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If someone says this is the worst thing you should never eat, you obviously want to click and learn about it. Or this is like the
Yes.
thing that you can do to cure kidney disease. Of course you want to learn about
Yeah,
it.
Yeah. Yeah.
clickbait, right?
But it's
Yeah.
not, that's not how science works. That's
Yeah.
not how food
Yeah.
works.
But how many times do we fall for it, right? Like it may
Yeah,
not be anything
of course.
nutrition related, but we're looking up something and something pops up and I'm like, huh, I never thought about that. Click. And then
Yeah,
you
I
go
know.
down this
I
rabbit hole.
I
And the
just
next thing you
last
know, you're buying something. And it's like, oh, okay.
yeah, just last month I was
We're not, none
influenced.
of us are immune to it, right?
I
We're only
know.
human.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
yeah,
Last
yeah.
month, I was influenced the most I've ever been influenced by one of my favorite. She's a labor and delivery nurse on Instagram. She's hysterical. But she was talking about this curling iron, and literally 30 seconds later, I purchased it. But I will say it is the best curling iron I've ever owned. So I'm not upset about it at all. But
No regrets, no
but
regrets.
just
Oh,
but
I
just kind
love
of
it.
shows like how I don't know. It's real. That influence is real. Influencers
Yeah.
can't influence us
Yeah.
to do things.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Oh,
Yeah, Jen
that's
Hamilton is
funny.
her name if you're interested. She's very funny. She has pet chickens.
Okay.
But all right, so
Yeah.
we're running out of time, but do you have any last thoughts on our conversation before we wrap up?
Last thoughts. I don't really have any last thoughts other than if you're looking to find two dietitians that are both named Michelle that have a philosophy of nutrition that is, we're going to be there and support you. I think that's the other thing. We're very compassionate. We have compassion, empathy, and and do truly care about our patients. We know that if you're going to be reaching out to us, it's not for just nothing. It's for some serious, that you have some concerns, and I will give you every, time that you deserve to help you, because I can imagine, where a lot of people that are listening, how they feel. They just want to know the right answer and they want help. So we are definitely there. We're at mynsgroup.com. And on Facebook at Kidney Nutrition Made Simple. You can look at us on there. It's a very, I think I do a lot of sharing of recipes. I think that's the most I do on that. And just kind of throwing that out there, just
People love
sharing like,
recipes.
okay, someone wants, I don't know what I saw the other day. It's a lot of salads. I love making salads, but,
A good
but
salads, not
just,
like iceberg lettuce and a tomato.
no,
Like
please.
fun, exciting, delicious.
Fun, exciting, interesting, beautiful to look at. They're not my salads, but I share a lot of great, because there is a lot of good things out there. And when I see it, then I share it. And then I feel like, okay, this is a good place to look at. And that's really what what social media, what Facebook sometimes can be. It's like, you just want something simple and pretty to look at. And you might have a recipe.
I think too, I just want to make sure I explain that both of us are just the type of people that you're always going to feel comfortable talking to us. I think that we are definitely there to help you navigate the waters through all of this and kind of this discovery of what this is and how do you proceed forward and how can I manage this condition, have a quality of life, still love food, be in control of what I'm eating and not letting the diet control me. But I think I definitely want to, express that we are both very open people, very humble people. Like you will feel comfortable, and because I think that's an important part of it, in finding someone that you really feel comfortable and feeling like you can trust someone. And I feel like that is definitely, I think that's definitely our strengths, both of us, is that we're just real. We're open with you. I'm going to tell you about my day too. Like I just want you to feel comfortable with us, and it's like usually people are just laughing with me more than anything, truly, during our counseling session. So I think that is definitely a benefit of ours, is that we both are we're just real, and we're gonna make sure you feel comfortable.
Awesome. Well, I will definitely link both your Facebook group and website in the show notes so people can easily access that. And with that, I will close this episode of the Eat Away Kidney Stones podcast. Thank you both, Michelle,
Thank
so
you,
much
Melanie,
for taking the time to hang out with me today.
You.
And for everyone else, I will see you next time. Have a good one.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening to today's episode. For more help with kidney stones, check out my website, www.thekidneydietitian.org. For more personalized help from me, check out my online course, Kidney Stone Nutrition School. VIP enrollment includes help directly from me. I can't wait to see you there and help you prevent kidney stones. Have a great day.